Hi folks, I'm Neil Barton. Once again, of course, you know by now I have a podcast. Everyone has a right to my opinion. Today we're talking politics, Texas style, and boy, is this going to be ugly. Roll it. Okay, here we are now, the old podcast back. Joann Fleming is our guest this week. We appreciate you being with us on such a lousy day. This is a Wednesday, May the 8th, and a deluge has come, so thank you very much for braving all the elements to talk.
Great to be here.
To talking politics here. This is ugly. A lot of folks sometimes lament that the Texas legislature only meets, one time every 2 years. Sometimes I think maybe every 10 years would be better.
Right. I
mean, what a mess we're talking about. So let's talk about the big reason why you're here, and sort of the newsworthy item is I'm not the smartest kid in class. I did okay, but I'm not the smartest kid in class. When I read this a while back, a couple of weeks ago, when they said, "Hey y'all, we're going to help you out with your property taxes, and we're going to do this and do that," it reminds me of, and again, car dealerships. Some of the finest people I've ever known in my life have sold cars, car dealerships. I'm not picking on them. This is just something that happened to me years ago. Buy my wife a car in Dallas. So we talk about the trade-in. We talk about how much the car was going to cost. So then they finally bring me the paperwork to sign. I looked down and I said, something is not right. And so with my Texas B+ math skills, I realized not only are they going to be charging me for the car I'm going to be buying, but instead of taking my trade-in off, they stacked it on top.
Right.
And I realized this is the same thing. And you and I have talked before here, and this is the same thing, isn't it?
Right.
What's going on with that?
Well, Neil, this is one of the reasons we call it the 140-day siege. I mean, it is literally a 140-day siege.
Nothing is safe when these guys are
That
meeting.
is exactly right. And what is so bad about this is that the Republicans are in on it. I mean, these guys, Republicans are in charge here. Mm-hmm. And so what we've gotten out of this session so far is big spending and big government. So let me tell you, you're talking about, what happens to you on a trade-in on a vehicle. Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you, do you remember what we were promised with the Texas lottery? And do you remember what we were promised with the big swap over the business margins tax, the franchise tax? This was supposed to...
See, you're smarter. You're smarter than I am. We're going to slow down a little bit on that because you understand all that ad valorem and whatever and all that Latin stuff or whatever. By the way, she runs the Grassroots with the People. And you're a watchdog group, so This is why you're constantly watching these folks. Yeah. So let's talk about the tax thing first. So they were saying, and stop me if I'm wrong, because you're sort of the teacher and I'm the pupil when it comes to this. In Texas, we like to brag that we don't have a state income tax. We brag all the time. But once you buy your first house, you realize why we don't have that, because you pay so cotton-picked much with the property tax. And so they said, hey, you all, we'll drop down that and put in a little sales tax. But by the time they do it, it's like California, right? Am I right or wrong?
No, you're right. And here's something that everybody needs to understand. Texas is number 3 in the nation in property taxes.
Say it again.
Texas is number 3 in the highest property tax burden in these United States. We're behind New York and Illinois, New Jersey and Illinois.
That's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. So
we don't tout that when we go talk about Texas as good for business, do we?
No, we don't. And that is going to have a negative impact on home ownership. On seniors being able to keep their own homes, on new first-time homeowners being able to get a home, and on business here, because we haven't even talked about business. So the business franchise tax that I mentioned, I just want you to understand, that was promised as a tax swap too. And the lottery was
promised. And it didn't happen.
Right, so that's why we didn't believe the sales tax from the very beginning. But anyway, when we crunched the numbers and we finally got the numbers out of the Legislative Budget Board, do you know that most counties in the state of Texas, only 20% of the people in the county would have seen a net decrease in property taxes? By the time you stacked a new sales tax increase on top of it and the property tax, only about 15 to 20% of the people would have seen any relief at all. Neil, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about property tax relief for everybody. Everybody. You know, the government doesn't have any business picking winners and losers, particularly when it comes to home ownership.
The government doesn't have any business.
Well, right. Well, and so what I want you to understand and the listeners to understand is the legislature started out with a $9 billion with a B, $9 billion surplus. Now that's certified. That's not Joann Fleming numbers.
So we started off once again this case with how much now?
$9 billion more to spend this session.
In the black, we're good.
Yes.
It looks good on paper.
Yes, and that's, by the way, that doesn't include Hurricane Harvey funding. We've taken that off the table. That's taken care of. That doesn't include the rainy day fund. That's taken care of. This is $9 billion more to spend this next biennium than last biennium.
And again, this is a spend, right? This is not the rainy day fund, whatever.
This is budget money to spend.
That we have budgeted to spend for people who need it.
Correct. Okay, to fund, the state share of Medicaid, the public education, the whole thing, the courts, the state court system, all of this stuff they do. And so they started out with $9 billion more. Well, we said from the beginning, please don't spend it all.
Not all.
Because what they did is they've backed into, they started out talking about property tax reform. That means capping the increase at local level, local government, at 2.5% automatic rollback.
What does that mean?
Well, that means that voters, if you're city council, if you're school district, if you're counties, if your emergency services district, your MUD districts wanted to spend more than 2.5%.
Okay, that was what was budgeted.
It would kick into an automatic voter approval.
Okay, I understand that.
So what does that do? That gives we the people an opportunity to decide how much we're willing to spend for local government.
Yeah.
And it makes local elected officials accountable for how and why they spend our tax dollars. That's fair, right?
I'm hip with that, yeah.
That's reasonable. So that scares the living daylights out of a lot of elected officials.
Because they love to spend that money.
Well, and I'm speaking as someone who has some experience because I've been an elected official.
Yes, you have been.
So I will.
You're a county commissioner of Smith County, by the way.
Yes. And so I like to say a recovering elected official. So I will tell you that it is reasonable for the people to be able to decide how much you're willing to spend on local government.
Okay.
So if you have a local elected officials who are accountable, who've earned credibility with the people, if they haven't gone out and done stupid things with your money, if they're being careful, if they're being accessible, the people are reasonable enough that if your county commissioners or your city council or your school district say, look, hey, we've got this that we need to do. And we're coming to you because we're going to need to spend more than 2.5% increase.
Like you've had a tornado or some sort of natural disaster or whatever.
Correct. We have these things we need to do, and we're going to ask you to vote us an increase.
Yeah.
Well, okay, what's wrong with that? I believe people are reasonable and they can understand the basics. What people don't understand is backdoor meetings.
Lawyers speak.
There's
lots of that going on.
Spending money on stuff that they shouldn't spend money on. And there are examples all over Texas on that kind of thing.
Well, I'll say before, I'm a liberal arts graduate, and a lot of reporters are liberal arts graduates, and they show up at the Texas whatever, and these guys talk above your head on purpose. They talk boom, 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 and it's kind of like, I don't know what this is, so people write something vaguely, and when we finally realize when we get the bill, it's like, what the heck is this?
Right.
What is this?
Right. So what we ask the legislature to do, and the governor is well aware of what we ask. The lieutenant governor is well aware, and so is Speaker Bonnet.
Yeah.
Because early on in the session, the coalition, our statewide conservative coalition of statewide leaders and groups, over 200 conservative independent groups across Texas and some Republican groups got together and said, what we're asking you to do is don't spend all the money.
Yeah.
What we want you to do is to take part of that $9 billion and we want you to dedicate about $5 billion of it to buying down property taxes.
Yeah, okay.
And that would include Adequately funding public education.
Yes.
It would include all the things that state government needs to do. But see, what they made a bunch of promises early on.
Ooh, politics, look at that.
Yeah, a bunch of promises
There you go.
early on.
Property taxes on owner-occupied housing, there's Texas right there. All right.
And so see, when you don't put because they did not put property tax relief at the front of the line and work back from there, now they've passed budgets that spend, and we're going to a conference committee now to work all these details out. Nothing is signed in stone.
And let me
yet.
be sarcastic. The first 20 days of the ledge, they had to say, basically, vote on is Dr. Pepper the official state drink of
Correct.
Texas. All this ridiculous bull. What is that? Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead. Keep going.
Well, it's the swamp. If people think that the swamp is only in Washington,
there's
DC,
lots of swamp in Austin.
You should spend a little bit of time in your state capital,
It's
and it
depressing.
is apparent.
Spend some time in your local government.
Oh yes, it's
You are
very
recovering.
depressing, yes.
So once again, to go back to my original thesis, so pretty much they said property tax relief will come down with that, and here comes this sales tax.
Yes.
So explain what happened with that.
Well, what happened with that is last Friday. Now, when you see elected officials have a Friday afternoon press conference.
Oh, you know what's going on there.
Yes, that was
Everyone's
a big signal.
off, drinking beer, having a good time at the lake, and here comes something.
Well, they were in trouble then. That was a signal. Now, they posited this as we're at the 5-yard line. They actually said, we're at the 5-yard line, and we're about to push this over the line to give you property tax relief.
Along with the sales tax.
Yes. But that's before the Legislative Budget Board came out with the price tag on it, which showed us, oh my gosh, by the time you net the sales tax increase, the 1 cent sales tax increase with the property tax relief, guess what? Most of us were still going to be in the red. Let me tell you, if anybody's paying more in taxes, when they get done with the session, we didn't get a property tax cut. All right? So it's real simple. So now what happened is there was a tremendous pushback. We sent out, we had calls going into the Capitol over the weekend and through yesterday. So the sales tax got pulled down Monday in the Senate. The architect of the Senator Taylor out of South Harris County.
We just
pulled
showed
it
him.
off.
He's the guy that looks like Glenn Beck, seersucker suit. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway,
No,
we'll go
I
back
don't
to
remember
the.
that.
Is that him?
No, that's Huberty.
Okay, that's Huberty.
That's Dan
Okay.
Huberty in the
All
House.
right.
So anyway, so in the Senate, they decoupled the sales tax from the school finance bill. So when they decoupled that, it pretty much signaled to the House, okay, this is over. So the House yesterday, Huberty that you were showing a while ago, he pulled it down. In fact, he had this.
He got mad.
Oh yeah, and he pointed fingers at the Senate. Well, they should be pointing fingers at themselves. They're the ones who passed the budget. Where they passed the House version of the budget, they're spending $12.5 billion over the conservative budget limit.
This is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I've been at this a while, 27 years. I hate to confess.
And you are fair.
Yeah.
You are fair, and that's why I'm talking to you. But because if they were getting it done, you would say, "Hey, this is good. You're not unreasonable."
Yeah, because here's what we said. We've always said this about the budget, and the we includes people like Texas Public Policy Foundation, the Heritage Foundation think tank of Texas. We've said from the very beginning, look, we should give them an increase in population growth plus inflation. That was right around an 8% increase in spending.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, so what I'm telling, that's more than generous, because let me just tell you, if I were queen for the day, it wouldn't be any 8%. But I'm not. So what we decided was a reasonable thing, because here's the thing, Neil. I know some of the garbage they spend money on that they shouldn't. That is a big old waste of time and money.
And again, we like to talk about how good we are in Texas and conservative with your money and whatever. And come on, man. Come on.
Absolutely. Well, that's why I tell people you need to dig into this and look for yourself. Whatever you do, Don't believe the spin that comes out from any politician that's getting ready to run for office. Because here's the thing: you need to be able to check their papers, and grade their papers, and know if they're telling you straight or not.
So put this on my level once again. So again, this whole thing is dead.
The sales tax is, we believe now, but wait a minute.
Because this reminds me of a snake you killed in your yard and you think it's dead.
That's right.
And all of a sudden you go back out, where is it?
Well, see, they're going in a conference now. They appointed conferees on some of the major pieces of that, because what you've got is you've got a bill for school finance. You've got a bill for property tax reform. You've got a bill for property tax relief. Those things have to work.
Oh, that makes my hair hurt.
I know, but that's the simplified version.
But see, you understand this,
Yes.
where I'm kind of like, what?
And all of it has to work together to give us the net result we need. Okay? And so it's not like these guys haven't had time to work on this. If you will remember, when the end of the last session, the governor said, we're going to have property tax reform and relief next session. What have they been doing? I mean, what have they been doing this entire time? They've been having meetings.
I guess talking about Dr. Pepper.
Well, and I hate to be so harsh. There are some really good people that work for the legislature. Of course there are. There's some really good ones.
And I know some of them.
But they get this mass hypnosis when they get down there, and it's like, oh my gosh, well we can't, we've got to spend all this money. Well, no, you don't.
No, you don't. You can save.
If you put the people first, if you put property tax relief first, and work back from that, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation today.
No, not at all. And also, let me ask you this: is this another reason why? When other people who live in Smith County, and I can only talk about Smith County because it's where I live, recently we got our bills for property tax, whatever, and everybody has been with the Linda Blair exorcist spinning head.
Oh, yes.
Because mine is high, high, high. I even own some property down in Deep East, Texas. All of a sudden, I didn't realize I became rich. I became land rich. I'm a land baron. So is this all tied to this?
Yes. What we're trying to do is to get actual property tax relief. Now, let me just tell you, we've heard this before. They would raise the homestead exemption. If you remember that. We've gone through iterations of...
And explain what that is, just one sentence for somebody who doesn't know.
It's the amount of money that the state says that you can exempt from property tax.
Okay.
For example, it's like $15,000 is a tax break. But if they take that off of your property evaluation, that does nothing with spending. That will appraisals will knock that out over time, as we know. We've already experienced that. So what we're talking about is the state has got to reduce its spending in order to buy down our property taxes over time and actually transition the state, making sure that it is paying what it should pay for schools, for public education. Now, let me just tell you this. When I'm talking about the state paying its fair share, I'm talking about the state coming and reaching into Neil Barton's state pocket and taking money out of it, as opposed to reaching into your local property taxes and taking it out. Because you pay.
Oh, yeah.
People like go, oh, well, the federal government's going to pay for that. Well, no, they don't.
No, they're not. You're going to pay for it. Nothing's free.
For it. So everywhere we have a problem in government, it's usually based on overspending. And so
everybody wants to, it's hard to compete with Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to compete with Santa. Hey, I'm going to be your whatever, and I'm going to give you stuff free.
But let me tell you how simple this actually is. Two numbers. The Senate is overspending in its side of the budget by $5 billion.
Gosh.
Okay? Well, if we take just $2.3 billion out of that $5 billion and we move it over to property tax relief and we add it to the $2.7 we already have, we got $5 billion in property tax relief. And we have got a conservative budget limit. We're under a population growth and inflation.
So why can't they do that?
They just need to get in a room and they need to work that out.
Well, don't they have committee rooms in Austin, like rooms like this?
Yes, all over the place.
Can they sit and have some Dr. Pepper?
Oh, yeah.
The state drink of Texas or whatever?
Things.
Oh, my gosh. So it would be that simple. So once again, so the sales tax thing has failed.
Yes.
So we're still stuck at being number 3, good on us,
right.
in the country with the highest property taxes.
That's right. That's right.
And that's where it's going to end,
right.
you think?
So now, no, because I will tell you what the governor can do. If they can't get this done in the regular session, he needs to call them back in a special session. And what that does for us over in the Senate, we need fewer votes to pass it in the Senate. There are rules that you don't want to hear about. But it only takes a simple majority in a special session to pass a bill out of this Texas Senate, because we have a couple of Republicans who are opposed to any kind of property tax reform.
Who are they?
The bad actor's from Amarillo. And
Who's
his
that?
name is Kel Seliger.
Oh, I've said his name before.
And he doesn't believe that the people should have any say in how much local government spends. I mean, he is opposed to the property tax reform.
Oh my gosh.
He always has been.
Who else?
And you got we got one that we're working on that we think we're going to bring our way. I don't think we can ever bring Kel Seliger our way, but we're working on another.
There he is, right there. He's
Yes.
a very intense looking young man. All right.
Yes, and so Kel is opposed to giving we the people the opportunity to roll back our taxes at the local.
So it can be done if they'll do it.
Yes,
But it looks like right now that they have been stopped.
well, the sales tax option's been taken away from them, but they have other things they're doing. Now, I will just tell you this. There are a lot of ways to balance a budget. You can use accounting gimmicks. What we're telling them is don't raid the rainy day fund, don't do any accounting gimmicks.
I can't believe they haven't tried to raid the rainy day fund.
Well, they already did to pay bills that they shorted last budget.
All right,
You don't even
all right.
want to go there.
No.
It's really bad.
So anyway, that's where we are right now. Let's talk
Yes.
about Laura Presley. We've had her on a
Okay,
newscast before,
sure.
whatever. Just in case you don't know at home, she was running for the city council in Austin, right?
Yes.
She looked to be ahead, internal polling, the whole thing. Come to find out, the last minute, all of a sudden she loses slightly. So she goes, I'm not liking this. Nobody likes to lose. So then, and tell me if I'm wrong. So then she goes, okay, I didn't lose by much. I want to see how much I lost by. So I want to see the paper trail, which Texas legally has to give you if you're a candidate for office, and the state could not do it. When she tried to do that, they basically said, get out of here. And so she took him to court and she won.
Yes.
And so where are we now?
Well, that went all the way to the Supreme Court. There were a couple of bad
Texas.
steps. Yes,
Yeah.
Texas Supreme Court. Laura actually was sanctioned by the appeals court, by the district court and the appeals court. They told her, this is frivolous, we're throwing it out, and we're going to put a $100,000 penalty on you. And the appeals court, that was at the district court level at the
This is insane.
I know.
Because the state broke the law.
That's right. And
I mean, I can read that.
Evidence. She had the evidence. Okay. And so then she takes
I should offer you some nice podcast coffee, by the way. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Podcast coffee? Can we get Joann some podcast coffee?
So
Can
so what we
Okay,
did with the appeals court then said, Laura Presley, this is frivolous, and if you just say that you will not appeal this, we'll drop sanctions. But if you appeal this to the Texas Supreme Court, we're going to sanction you some more. And they did. And so
But she didn't do anything wrong.
No, she didn't. So let me tell you the outcome of this.
Oh my gosh.
The outcome of this is that when you have a candidate, see, the only people that have standing to sue when they believe an election has been stolen is the candidate.
Yeah.
And so
And guess who you're up against?
That's right. And so you've got to have, because we're talking about her case cost her over $400,000.
How does she raise the money, by the way?
Well, there are people all across the
Who helped?
state that are just sick and tired of this kind of, the big guys pound the little guy into the ground. And so, but Laura has shown the evidence now, and it's incredible. The corruption files and the printout that you get from election data being going to central counting so that they tally the votes from every precinct.
I know Smith County has new machines.
Yes.
I guess because of things like that.
Yes.
I hope they work okay.
And it's got the paper trail on it. So what the result of this is that in Laura's case, the kind of evidence she had is now the Supreme Court ruled that kind of evidence is not frivolous. It is the basis to contest an election.
There she
and
is.
so now, yeah, she's a hero. I
yeah,
tell you.
yeah.
And most
That's what
of the
David and Goliath.
Yes, and most of the media will not. Thank you for paying attention to this, Neil, because I got to tell you, most of the media will not do anything on voter fraud.
They don't understand it.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know if it's not
well, you
intimidating
know,
or
you
whatever.
have all kinds of voter fraud. You've got the digital kind of voter fraud that Laura went through. Digital, I mean, they were flipping votes. You have the mail ballot harvesting.
Well, that leads me to this. And again, I'm not cutting you off, hold that thought, but it just sets to tee you up here, to tee this up for you, that right now I know the AG's office in Texas is looking into East Texas.
Yes.
And they're looking into South Texas. There's some things I know off the record or whatever, but they have guys and ladies who work for the AG who are crawling through East Texas because they say they have found widespread cases of voter harvesting, mainly with old people, nursing homes, whatever. So let me let you continue.
Well, and I think by now we're up to like 9 cases of that the AG has that they're actually looking into.
Oh, there's more than that.
Yeah, but I mean the criminal complaints that have been filed. So yeah, but the good news for the people out there that are listening is people like Laura Presley are going around the state and they are training people to be in Central County, not watching at the precinct where the votes get flipped, are in Central County. And so I will tell you that she's training people to watch in Central County so that no funny business goes on. And we have spent the entire summer going across the state with what we call Protect Your Vote Texas tour. And we've had Laura, we've had the people that Direct Action Texas that have done all the investigative work on the mail ballot harvesting. We've had an election judge traveling with us to explain how Texas has gone so wrong. Do you know that Texas has not verified its voter registration list since 2003 when the Republicans took over state government? No, we don't have have you ever heard of Judicial Watch doing the lawsuits against states that don't verify their voter list? Well, Texas is ripe for that because I will tell you, we've got felons registered. I mean, this is on public record down at the Capitol.
Wasn't there just something a couple of months ago? Once again, Texas got in trouble for Ken Paxton got in trouble for
and the Secretary of State because they had this really clumsy, horrible rollout of an initial trying to verify the voter list. But anyway, look, anybody that wants to register to vote in Texas is registered to vote.
Yeah.
This application that people fill out and you just check a box that you're a citizen, nobody's checking that.
No.
Nobody is checking that.
Well,
that is for sure.
Well, once again, people who are here illegally. Let's talk about immigration.
That's
right. Of course, it came down last night. I couldn't believe the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal came across basically saying you swim the river, you come across or whatever, you're going to wait to become an American citizen or to be verified in Mexico. Because as you know right now, the way it has been, people get into this country, they're caught by the Border Patrol, your court date's going to be 4 years from now, and I'll be a good boy or girl, and they disappear in the shadows and you never see them again.
That's true.
And so what's going on with immigration?
Well, I will tell you that the numbers that we get from the declassified DPS reports they put out, we have more people coming across illegally in Texas than we have in the last 15 years. I mean, it is a surge that makes the 2014 and 2015 surge pale in comparison. And, you know, the Border Patrol is, it's catch and release because there are not enough beds. Detention beds for them. And I will tell you what the bottom line is. People in Texas are going to pay more and more and more and more in property taxes because you got
to take care
of them in the schools. And not only that, the House passed a bill that opens it up for anybody that came here to go ahead and get access to social services. I mean, straight into state social services. So now, Neil, here's the thing.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Now, it hasn't gone to the Senate yet, and I believe we got the votes to kill it in the Senate. But I will tell you this. We are about to get to a situation where we can no longer provide for American citizens who need a helping hand.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm as humane as anybody, and my heart goes out or whatever, but I'm not a fan of open borders, whatever this is, or basically letting these people across that eventually, guess what? Social services, people giving us, you can't fight Santa Claus, voting for one particular party that's more ripe for supporting this sort of thing than the other. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
And is that what it is?
Well, it's and I can tell you that we've got some friends that are on the Trump team, and the going question now is, why hasn't Governor Abbott declared a state of emergency at the Texas border?
I don't know.
That's the question. We haven't declared an emergency here. Let me tell you, if the governor would declare an emergency down on the Texas border, that opens up a whole new line of discussion in Washington, D.C.
So why won't he do it?
I don't know, but
I mean, they were very slow to help out with this Alto thing, which is what makes me mad. Anyone who knows whatever that the tornadoes hit or whatever, we have people who swing by every 2 to 4 years. Give me your vote, I'll help, whatever. We haven't seen a whole lot of anybody. The U.S. Congressman, we're finally talking with him. Again, I'm a small government guy, but when a county like Cherokee is hit so hard and a little old city like Alto is wiped out by tornadoes, you need some help. People just can't suck it up buttercup and make that work. And so we talked to the governor's office. I finally got his aide de camp or whatever. He says, watch your phone, here it comes. And they finally issued disaster declarations. But what does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, see, that is supposed to open up emergency funding.
But are they taking advantage? How do they get that?
Well, what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to send people down to the local level who will say, this is what you do to access these emergency funds.
And they told me all the alphabet acronyms are down there looking around or whatever.
Have they sent the alphabet soup acronym people down to Alto to meet with the people?
They said they did, but knocked me over with a feather. It's a little country town. There wasn't enough damage to trigger FEMA.
Well, yeah.
So then you're messed up there. I don't even know about St. Augustine. I'm so hard trying to take care of Alto, but people were contacting me saying, how about a little help, a little something? And so we just won't let it go. In the news department, we just won't let it go.
Well,
so
that's
I don't
right.
know.
Well, as we're talking here, we're talking about real people whose real lives have been damaged by something that was beyond their control. And so government is always here in our faces to help us. And then whenever this little town needs help, it sounds as if you can't get any help. All I can say is they have the ability to send a group of people from the state agencies to come in and sit down with the local elected officials and, for crying out loud, have a town hall or go out to where these people are and hear what their needs are. If they're not doing that, they're not doing their jobs.
That's the way I see it. So finally, before we go, because I could talk to you all day long about these sort of things that fascinate me. Once again, the FISA warrants, everything else is coming with that. I'm hearing that indictments are coming. I mean, President Trump said he was spied upon. You see the cock and bull show that's going on this morning in the House. I mean, it looks like the worm is about to turn on that. What do you think?
Well, I think so. Look, the bottom line is this. Those FISA courts are secret courts.
Yes.
That can sign off on warrants to
spy on Americans.
Yes.
But that's legal.
That's right. But they are secret courts. So here's the thing. At a minimum, those secret courts should be relying on
information. That's
not
hard.
Some concocted dossier that was purchased by people who had it in for Donald Trump from the very beginning. If those FISA warrants were predicated on lies, we've got a big problem here.
Well, I think we do have a big problem here. I cannot believe the National Press Corps. I don't care whether you swing left or right or whatever.
No.
I would want to know. Information wants to be set free.
Look.
And then if Mrs. Clinton was right by whatever, then so be it. But if it's wrong, and then it appears to be you have something going on with the FBI. But then again, though, do they have the guts? And I keep hearing this from all the talking heads I listen to and podcasters. Do they have the guts? Does Bill Barr have the guts to go and blow up the FBI? because that's where a lot of this is coming from.
Well, what this boils down to, Neil, is this. If they will surveil someone who is at the stature of Donald J. Trump, someone who's running for president, what are they going to do to Joann Fleming and to Neil Barton if we cross the right people?
Let me tell you something. It's coming.
Well, sure it is.
If they don't draw whatever, just because you work in the meat market or drive a truck or whatever, don't think that can't happen to you.
Well, absolutely.
And it's
it happens
frightening.
all the time. It happens all the time to the little guy.
Yep.
We already know that. So here's the thing. If the American people cannot trust law enforcement, where are we? And so, you know, I know a lot of people from time to time, and even a lot of retired people from the FBI, and I want to tell you, by and large, the people who work in law enforcement are people that are just like you and me.
They are fantastic.
And they are fantastic people. But it's a few bad eggs up there at the top that are giving all of them a bad name. And that's just wrong. I hope that William Barr will go the distance and root them out. You know, the American people need to know the truth. No matter how bad it is, we need to know what the truth is so we can deal with it.
I don't care if left looks bad, right looks bad, or whatever. I just want the truth. That's all I want to know, because we can't keep going on with this business of this Cats and Jammer Kid thing that's going on in Washington, D.C.
Well,
it's ridiculous. And also, with the media not covering both sides, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. All right, I've held you long here. Let's go out on this Grassroots America, We the People. Tell people about are you the president now? I know you helped form it here.
Yes.
You've had several different titles because you're always out of town doing something else.
Yeah, I'm executive director of Grassroots America, We
Tell
the
people what it is.
We are the largest constitutional conservative citizen activist group
Here's your website.
in the state of Texas.
Did you start that, or was that something else? Okay.
Yes, we did. I'm one of the original founders.
Is it just in Smith County?
No. It's statewide.
Okay.
We're the largest. It's a statewide organization now, and it's all volunteer led. That's what makes us different. A lot of the other groups, and there are a lot of great groups who have paid staff. We are all volunteer led.
It's easier,
and it's a big job.
It's easier to count the money that way.
Well, and it's a really big job. But I can tell you that we've grown all over the state. In fact, we have doubled in the last couple of years.
Well, I would urge people, because I have gone to cover events there before as a reporter, and I will say this, and moderated some panels or whatever, but be you right, be you left, or whatever, I would beseech everybody in Smith County, Gregg County, whatever, to go, because that's where you hear what's going on. You guys are watchdogs, and you can disagree or whatever, but at least you know what's going on.
Well, and I'll tell you what else we do is we document and we give you sources. I always tell people, you don't have to believe a word Joann Fleming says. Check me out, because before I say something like the numbers I've thrown out today, I have those sourced. I have everything sourced. What good does it do me as a full-time volunteer to go out and tell people crap that they could say, well, you know, that wasn't true. We source it.
It would hurt,
and we try to tell people what they need to know, because what you don't know will hurt you.
Yeah, and as the old, I heard this on radio years ago, if you're not paranoid, you're not paying attention.
Right.
That's just an old radio term. Anyway, well, thank you I hope you'll come back again.
I will.
We can
Sure,
go for hours or whatever.
fun.
So once again, Grassroots America, We the People. When do you guys meet?
We meet actually next Tuesday, the May 14th at noon over at the Holiday Inn South on South Broadway in Tyler.
So you've changed locations from the church.
Yes.
Okay.
All of our meetings are at Holiday Inn South Broadway in Tyler. And I tell you what else, if you go to the website, GAWTP.com. You can find our calendar there, and also follow us on social media at GAWTP.
And again, the more you know, the better it is. And again, I would encourage anybody, no matter what your political stripe may be, show up and see what's going on out there, because it's serious.
It is serious.
All right, Joann, thank you very much. Come back again, please.
Thanks.
Thank you for being with us. Remember, Neil Barton has a podcast. Everyone has a right to my opinion. We'll see you next time.
Now, hey, so long, say everything. Who's you gonna get? What's you gonna get? Something wonderful. Get a man of crap. Everything. That's something.